So blowing some minds, huh?
Yes.
So tell me a bit of your concept or what you're trying to do at the moment.
Okay, so we've got we're doing the different human desires and how people try to compensate them by using AI.
Cool.
Like art and company and knowledge and there's four main different ones.
Okay. Yep.
And I think we're more focusing in on how using AI to take that away can be quite damaging to people. But we're not sure whether or not we want to focus in on it being terrible or if it could possibly be a tool.
Interesting. So you don't have a idea of like what side of the fence you're going to sit on, or are you going to give that to the audience to choose?
I think we just don't want to be like pro AI, like yes, let it take over teachers. We don't need people anymore. But we want it to be just have people have a better understanding of the side effects and consequences of overusing AI.
Okay.
Becoming dependent on it.
Yeah. So find the use case for and against and showcase the negative effects or the positive, but you're not too sure on which one you're going to go for yet. Is that about right? Or are you sort of leaning more towards the negative?
We're probably leaning more towards the negative,
Okay.
just because it would probably make a better show.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. All right, well that sounds interesting. How long is the show supposed to go for?
10 to 12.
Okay, 8 to 12 minutes, 10 to 12, roundabout. Perfect. Okay, so what have you got so far in regards to knowledge? Where are you looking at?
Well, the only knowledge we really have is from asking other students. That's because that's So the four that we had, the four branches, are just based on what people our age use it for. But
Okay.
Just our age, or got the original, the medical AI.
we hadn't integrated that into the second.
No.
But that's because we don't know enough about what it was originally created for and what it's being used for. We only know a very surface level. It is people use it for homework and people use chatbots and etc.
Okay, so people use it for schoolwork, homework, and then chatbots. How do you know what understanding have you got in regards to chatbots, for example?
Just people. I mean, we have people in this class that talk to them for, therapy.
Yeah.
There are just people who use them to talk to characters and for entertainment.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting you said you've even got people in the class that use them for therapy and companionship and all that kind of stuff. Because there was a study just done by Harvard comparing 2024 to 2025 use cases for AI. And 24, it was generating ideas was number one. And therapy, I think, and that kind of thing was number two. It's actually jumped up. It's now the number one use case for AI is companionship and therapy. Yeah.
Some people don't want to talk to an actual person.
Yeah, so if they don't want to talk to an actual person, they can word vomit at a phone for hours on end and get what they want. And it was interesting that generating ideas and that had dropped significantly, number 6 or something down the ranks.
Well, that's probably because companies started making things to detect them, so kids weren't using them as much as this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was interesting. There was another study, I think it was the Health Commission or something along those lines, that indicated there's over 100 versions of AI that are designed for companionship, and they were flagging it as a big risk because there was this story, I think it was last year, someone used it so much that got the wrong interpretation and went down the wrong sort of rabbit hole and then ended their life because of, they can't significantly say because of that use of AI, but they can also sort of go, well, did it contribute or did it not? Yeah, so it was this really big sort of controversy that was coming out end of last year.
I think Sharon sent me a video last night about a man who used it for companionship because he didn't want to put his problems constantly onto his friends and family. But his friends and family started saying that it was making him violent.
Interesting. Yeah. So
I don't know if that was the same case actually. But yeah.
I think it was a young person.
Yeah.
Not too sure on the details. I didn't really dive into it, but yeah, interesting that there's big creators. So you may or may not know about Gary Vee. So do you know Gary Vee? Yeah. So he's always, spruiking where technology is going and, make the content, all that kind of stuff. But he's basically saying that AI companionship, it will eventually morph into a humanoid, all those kind of things of now people are bringing an AI third person into their relationship to save their relationship on an intimacy level. Yeah, and it was crazy. You're like, oh, well, that sounds a bit weird, but it's interesting because there was an article like literally a week ago that had, like full controversy of like, I can't remember what they call it, like fembots, where it's like a full silicon version of a woman had an AI sort of integrated into it, and then this couple were interviewed and they were like, yeah, this is the best thing, it saved our marriage.
So it's a sex bot.
It's a sex bot, basically. So yeah, there's some pretty, like, it's always going to go one way or the other, and people will capitalize on that. And that's why you sort of see deepfake AI influencers. You see, I'm not too sure if you've seen them.
Deepfakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're scary.
Yeah, they're pretty full on, like hard to tell sometimes. Like,
But then there's always the ones that you kind of can just tell just because
Yeah.
something's a little off about it.
yeah, you're like, they're just too perfect on the skin, or they're like, their hair is slightly blurred in this part of the photo. Yeah, super interesting stuff. So yeah, it depends on like the angle you're looking at for what you're sort of trying to go down on the negative aspects, because it could also, like, there's the loneliness epidemic at the moment for, yeah, a little old lady who wants to, connect with someone or something. You've probably seen those videos where back when Google Nests, like the Google Homes came out years ago, and this little like Italian lady's like screaming at this thing, like telling, like, turn off the lights, and it's like, because it couldn't understand her accent. This was like 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
But now you got this, yeah, I suppose companion in your pocket if you wanted it. So
Do you think the loneliness epidemic is partly due to AI?
it's
Or do you
a
think
pretty,
it's just rise of like online?
I think that's a pretty big sort of link. If you said it's due to, I think there's so many compounding like aspects to it.
I feel like just like also the rise of so many different things to use to talk to people online.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to people and like meet them face to face.
Yeah, that whole idea of if it's there, you don't have to go up and talk to somebody. So therefore, your social anxiety can just be embedded into you as a person because
It's free.
yeah, and it's free. Everyone can access.
Like, I don't want to pay $250 to go to an actual counsellor when I can just
Do it online.
get it from a textbook. Something studied from a textbook as well.
Yeah.
Not compassion.
Well, you can train it to have compassion. So there's a AI that I showed the teachers yesterday in a training I did called Google Notebook LM. And all it is just, you gets all your knowledge, all your YouTube videos, your PDFs of like textbooks or whatever, puts it in, it consolidates it into like a chat and you can talk to it. But then you click one button and it creates a podcast between two entities, and they use words like and and they stumble over their words to make it more human-like, and it can generate it in a couple of minutes. So then all this knowledge that would have taken you, hours to consume, it'll create a 15-minute podcast breaking down the most intense things you can probably research. So there's the positive of like, exponential learning if you really wanted to go down that track.
But like, can an artificial intelligence actually understand very intricate details of, like, if you were using it as a therapist, very intricate details of problems, like, and take into consideration every single aspect that you've told it, and come up with a response like a person can?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. Like, can it like see the little subtleties of like how you respond and then all the details? Well, there's the paid versus free argument. So if you get the free, you get about this much of all the context window. If you get the paid version, you got this much. So it'll only remember in that one chat up to that context window. So you might think, oh, look, I was talking to this thing for hours. It remembers what I said right at the beginning, but now you've used your memory window or your context window. So it's only getting the last, 40% of your couple of hours that you've been talking to it. But there's also versions in like ChatGPT, for example, that can retain your knowledge from all the chats that you've had with it, and then it can sift it all together. So it depends on the tech. But yeah, it's there's an argument that technology these days is removing what we call scarcity of knowledge. So, you've got doctors, you've got teachers, you've got people who go years and years of studying this one thing, become an expert in this one thing, and you, as a student, would have to then talk to us or get taught by us to get that same knowledge. So now that's becoming redundant to a degree. You can access any of that knowledge, click of a button, or a simple prompt. So there's this argument saying that the scarcity framework that we have worked on for years is going to get removed, so anyone can access any knowledge as long as you know how to prompt or ask for it.
Isn't it like people are becoming lazy with it? Like, just because, like, even like the current way, like structure of education, like if you give a student a question, the student just puts it into any AI thing and it spits it out, and they don't even read what the answer is. They don't actually gain any knowledge from it. And wouldn't it be the same way if it was like an AI teacher or something, and there would be no way of detection because the AI doesn't actually know the student's individual way of like doing things. If it only ever were to use, the student only ever were to use AI to reply, so they wouldn't actually know anything. Like, you could come out of medical school with a full medical degree with no actual knowledge.
Yeah, 100%. Because there's a phrase that knowledge is only potential power. The success comes from the actions that you take. So you've got access to all this free knowledge now, but unless you do something with it and fail by using it, or you never actually know it. So you could read like a textbook on how to run a $1 billion business, but unless you're actually trying to run $1 billion business, you wouldn't have any idea the intricacies, like sort of what you're saying, about how to do it. So it's there, but you still got to take action. I think that's the moral of that one. So,
Do you think it's a problem that like AI is like a marketable product? As in, like, with this companionship stuff, people say that it's a problem because it's a product being marketed, its algorithm is programmed to adapt and tell you what you want to hear. Is that like a big thing?
so you're thinking a problem because it is got competition and able to tell you what you want? Is that what you're sort of saying?
I guess, but also kind of like it's not really, especially people using it for therapy, it's not really sometimes telling you what's right, but instead it's just reflecting what you've written.
Yeah.
It's like saying if you're a really narcissistic, horrible example, but if you're like a really narcissistic person and you're like trying to get therapy for it, it'll just say that you're right and everything, just kind of feeling it as one.
Like, if I was having an argument with my boyfriend and I was saying these sort of things he did from my perspective, he's crazy, right? Wouldn't the AI just be like, go off of, oh yeah, he did all this stuff without any reflection on what I did, and be like, okay, yeah, he is crazy, and just kind of like feed into my delusion without actually offering any solution.
That's a really interesting point, because that's what we call confirmation bias. So when we confirm our own opinion and you're trying to seek validation for justifying your decision regardless of the other person or other things, sort of side of things. So yeah, you're right, because if you don't question and use critical thought when you are reviewing this sort of response you're getting, you can just get confirmed, oh yeah, I'm 100% right. And that's the thing with generative AI. It generates or it creates based on pre-existing knowledge or pre-existing data. So it's not generating, I suppose, new things, but just using context windows and things like that to generate this idea. And if it's confirming your suspicion of what you're already putting into it, yeah, that's a big challenge. One of the things we try to teach when we look at, say, prompt engineering and prompting, to make sure we are looking at getting away from bias, but it's always going to be there because of the people who create the bot or the people who are using the bots or the large language models. It just creates and it stores all that information. So one of the ways we sort of try to get around that is called responsive and reflective prompting. So responsive is you're telling it what you want and it'll produce, and reflective is you asking it questions. What else do you need to help make this decision? What would make this a better outcome? And it'll ask for context. So then,
It's still dependent on the person who's saying it.
100%.
It's not like an actual like therapy or anything where the psychiatrist will prompt you to say it. The chatbot isn't going to be like, well, what do you think? How would you? It's gonna. And also, so there's generative AI. What other types of AI are there?
Yeah, so there's a really big talk these days called, there's multiple levels, and if you don't know, AI is only a subset of machine learning and deep learning. It's been around for ages. We're only just recently seeing it because of market share. But there's another version that was projected for like 2040, 2050 to be hitting us, but it's getting rapidly pulled closer, which is called AGI, or Artificial General Intelligence. And what that is the equivalent of human intelligence. It's the ability to make a decision based on context and execute a task. We're not there yet, but things are becoming closer, like AI agents where they can take context and they can book your flights, or they can access your Google Drive and they can do certain things, set your calendars for you. There's those kind of things, and what I suppose the experts are saying is you've got to get used to the idea of you working alongside an AI entity of some form to help you do whatever you're doing in life. It's no longer, well, when it gets to that point, it'll be, there'll be, AI managers. You might have a boss telling you exactly what to do, and it's an AI.
But is it ethical?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Is it ethical?
Is it dangerous to be giving up that kind of control to an AI? Like an AI is booking your flights, how you don't know if it's not on the wrong.
Yeah, that's it. So it's a really good point. Is it, giving up that control? It's like, it can just like drain your bank card or put you on the wrong flight somewhere else. You are definitely putting a lot of trust into it. That's for sure.
What's that thing called? It's like, it's an English thing where it's like women don't have.
Agency?
That's it.
Agency. Yeah.
With agency.
Yeah. So that's a really, really good point. Lack of agency. So you would have heard it so much from like what we talk about here at school. You try a disposition of learning, that colourful wheel we always see on the walls. The whole point of that is supposed to be, if you can do all those things or be all those things by the time you graduate, you're a whole person. You're an agentic person. But the more control you give away, the less agency you have. But arguably, the more control you give it, the more agency you are eliciting, because you're saying, no, I'm giving this task, a menial task, to this thing to save me time so I can do something more meaningful.
It's going to be your manager. If you're creating an artificial intelligence manager or AGI, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like, you're not actually giving yourself any choice, because it can enforce that theoretically. If it's a manager, it has the ability to enforce. And how is an artificial intelligent entity going to enforce?
Because there would still most likely be a human with it.
It says who? If it's going at the rapid speed, it's going to end up becoming its own entity that has its own free thought. So
Yeah.
how is it going to?
So there's like old frameworks. There's, I can't remember what they're called now. I taught it years ago, but it's like, the rules of robotics. Those kind of,
there's
yeah.
Something I heard, isn't it? There was a guy that did a computer program, but it wasn't a computer program, it was him on the other side a while ago. Like 19 something. It was, huh?
19 something a while ago.
They're pretty old. Honestly, they
It
are.
was 19 something something.
Yeah, but was it the 90s or was it the 20s?
I don't know, but it was an experiment someone did where they were like, if you can convince this program to do something, to realize, it was like, it was a test to see if you could get an AI to believe it was like safe or something. Like, it was trying to gain sentience, but you had to convince it that it shouldn't, and it's wrong, and it shouldn't go out into the world. But it was just a guy controlling what the robot said back to it, so I don't know what I was going on about, but that happened.
That's great, sweetie.
Well, I'm gonna find it.
There is the sentience
Yeah.
test that AIs that can fool humans into thinking they are humans.
That doesn't mean they're sentient. That just means we're going.
That was a test.
Do you think it's possible that they could gain sentience?
Possibly.
How would that happen? If they're just based off of what we give them.
Well, I suppose that's why there's the whole argument about ethics and what are we using the data for and how's it being stored and then who's buying it and who's selling it and then who's got access to it. So the idea of sentience is sort of along the lines of AGI, where it's able to do things that are human equivalent. But that's where like those rules of robotics and rules of AI are supposed to check it.
But who's enforcing that?
Well, that's where the companies that are building these things, like OpenAI for ChatGPT, would sort of be held accountable.
Yeah, but like who's holding them accountable? They're going to have all of the power in the world, essentially. They're going to have all the knowledge, they're going to have all of this stuff just widely and readily available to them. How? There's no way of genuinely policing it, like controlling the scope. But after a while, there's no way of like controlling the scope of it.
Yeah, you're right. Well,
People are going to do things to make it, like, just with everything. People are going to find a way to corrupt it.
yeah. So that's where human morals have to come into it. We are able to be sentient to go, this is right, this is wrong. And if people want to take advantage, they will take advantage. But we also got to assume that good intent is there, that they're building this thing to help, to save us something. But, well, we've got to assume that there are things are happening to the possible good, but at the same time, that's why we have, law and courts and things like that, because
That's corrupt.
people go rogue.
It seems that the law is a corrupt system. So is there any actual safety in assuming that people are going to be sensible with this destructive force?
I don't think it's best to look at it as a destructive force.
Well, it can be like people are corrupted, is what I'm saying.
But there are policies to stop that.
Well, there's policies to stop war, but it still happens. Do you know what I'm saying?
Not very
There's the UN to approve stuff.
And they're unenforceable because the state's stopping to. That's what I'm saying. There's always a way for people to get around things.
Yeah, so I suppose it comes back down to you as the individual. Like, we can only control what we can do. And if you're in a big corporation or a big thing, then you can influence others. But it sort of comes back to, the 2,000-year-old philosophy of Stoicism, where it's like, what's in your circle of influence? What can you control? And only act in the right way. So all those, things that are ancient are still relevant, but it comes down to people's intentions. So one of the things we train our teachers on is what is the intent of using this AI or teaching this process, because is it for cheating? Is it for just so they can get a task done as quickly as possible? Or are we trying to train students or people to use these things to make their lives easier? Like, the intent matters. That's, I suppose, the point.
It's a good thing to use to get feedback. I think my maths teacher says a lot about AI is like training one to give specific feedback for maths questions.
Yeah.
So students can use that like immediate feedback to help them.
Yeah. It's becoming more and more of a thing. So I was at an AI conference recently where a student was sick of just waiting to get that sort of level of feedback. So they ended up making their own AI sort of bot for every single subject for their HSC, and now it doesn't give them the answers, it gives them the guidance and explicit feedback on how you could answer this question in a specific style for every single subject. And now they're number one in all their courses.
Do you know if that was like a specialized kind of AI or if it was just a general?
It's literally just ChatGPT.
Really?
And then in the paid version, you can create a thing called a GPT. So ChatGPT is just a giant chatbot, and it's accessing this huge data, large language models. But you can create your own little large language model or GPT to specifically work on the knowledge that you've acquired in it. So same kind of concept when I talked about Google Notebook LM just before, where you can put all your YouTube videos, your PDFs in it, and then you can get that podcast. That's essentially creating your own knowledge bank, your own chatbot to a degree, where you can get specific feedback that doesn't tell you what to do, or doesn't just tell you the answers, gives you that explicit. But it takes time. Yeah.
It's not like God's coming out.
You mentioned like deepfake. What are your thoughts on the use of AI in political advertising?
Oh, it's an interesting one. So
There was
political.
a lot of during the election.
I
There was
haven't
a
actually
lot
seen a lot,
of
but then I watched Gruen Nation, and they were showing all these like AI generated ads that
Right.
like the political parties were putting on TikTok.
Wow.
yeah, there was so much just Labour and Liberal just AI stuff.
I haven't even seen any of it. I don't know.
Yeah, honestly, I hadn't seen any, but you're saying that the both policy or both sides of the government were using AI to create their ads.
Yeah, like one of the ones that
They dropped something.
they showed on Gruen was like it's one of these like cat people, and they had their Medicare cards and stuff. I
Yeah.
don't know, it was just really weird.
So weird because they created a cat person holding like a Medicare card to influence people. Is that?
It's just
Seems very uncanny to me.
But it happened.
that. Yeah, but it's just a strange thing. I think there were other things like deepfakes and voices.
Yeah.
There was one of there was a deepfake of I don't know who it was, but someone saying that they were going to support the ban on gambling advertising. But, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
Like duck being a stripper or something.
there's so many things like that like, you know, opens up that world of defamation of like, you know. Yeah, so it's a really interesting one about, you know, using deepfake or the ability to, you know, interchange your own AI avatar to sell, influence others. So there's a really good AI sort of like expert, I'd call her, Sabrina Romakov, I think her surname is. But she sold an AI company a few years ago for about 30 million, and now she just gives away all the knowledge for free on like TikTok and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. But she's spent a bunch of time training an avatar to model her. So now there's a full working avatar that uses her voice, her entire person, and the only way you can tell it's her or an AI version of her is she puts a hat on. So her AI one has always got a hat. So she's like, I'm going to show you how you can do it. And this is how you can tell it's not me, or this is the AI. And she did these tests, basically, that she was selling her products or she was giving information, and she got millions of views with this AI version of her because it's got the same likeness, same voice. It can hit all the hooks like perfectly. It could do all these things. And because she trained it on all this like social media content. So she managed to bring in extra like millions of views to her platform through an AI avatar. So if the politicians are doing the same thing, like we're probably going to see more and more of it. Like, because there's no human error then. Like you can just nail your lines every single time and get the message across that you want to.
Like that will make certain creative things null and void. Like what's the point of having actors then? Or musicians, if you can just feed like an interface all this different stuff to do, what's the point in people working their passion jobs, which isn't kind of one of the purposes of AI, to give people more time to have passions rather than being stuck around the mundane things.
Yeah. So what's the purpose of doing anything if AI is just going to do it for us?
Nihilism term.
Yeah.
It's called the nihilism term. What's the point if AI is just going to be able to do everything? What's stopping everyone from just becoming like the fat people in WALL-E?
Yeah, that's a cool point. Well, I feel like it's human nature. Like there'll be people who take full advantage and just like do all my stuff. But then there's also, you know, creativity, you know, everyone is curious, passions come out of doing something well, and then competence is formed, and then we find new interests. But human nature, we want to grow, Like we've still got the need to contribute. We've still got the need for certainty. We've still got the need for variety and significance and love and connection. Regardless of if an AI can do it, we'd still want to do it because it's human nature.
If AI continues to evolve at the pace that it is there a possibility that people just become dependent and get all of those needs met by an AI?
Possibly.
They'll get love and companionship, they'll have education, and then everything will just be done through AI rather than actual face-to-face or any actual human interaction.
Yeah. You know what I found interesting? Like, I've been in a lot of online communities, and you know, the biggest success they ever have is when they have a in-person meetup. So it goes from bringing the online to the offline and actually connecting as people. And that's what I've seen is those communities blow up because they're no longer just, you know, through a camera or through a thing. So it's the same kind of thing. Like if AI is doing everything for us, we still want to be able to see, touch and like have interactions with people. Even if it's sentient to a degree, even if there's a robot that's looking like a person talking at us, I feel like there will still be a point for a while, you know, like people want to actually connect and move offline. Like if you look at like the education space for a sec, people prefer in-person like education than online because it's easier to focus and you got more interpersonal skills and all those kind of things. And when you go online or you go to university or you run a course online, it's very hard to engage the person at the same level as if they were in person because you can't really just have those little off-the-cuff jokes. You can't sort of have proximity and the non-verbal cues and all those things because remember our communication is like 60 to 70% non-verbal. Like verbal is the smallest part of our communication. It's tonality, pitch, all those kind of things, but our movement and the way we use our body is the thing that actually people connect on and build rapport through. So you ever been in like, I don't know, a class or a cafe or something and you'll like sit a certain way and then next minute this person over here sits the exact same way as you, or you do the same thing and then you'll like, I don't know, scratch your head and then the person you're deeply in conversation with starts scratching their head too, or they'll change the tone or the speed of their voice. That's all because it's mirroring and matching communication. And until those like what you said before, until those nuances can be replicated in that deep fake version or that AI version, human connection is still going to be like number one when it comes to in-person kind of ways we want to actually live, I guess. Yeah, but if you dive in like heavily on the AI, you can get, you know, that full nihilism, that full skepticism. You're like, oh my God, doom and gloom. But then you can just like literally just go for a walk out in nature, go into the bush, go to the beach and go, oh, none of that matters. Because you know, you got the sand in your toes or you got like the wind hitting you in the face. All that disappears. You don't even think about it. And it's interesting, I go hiking all the time and like go from like a really high stress job and then I spend a week, no technology, I film, but you can't really do much other than film. And you just switch off from all those things that you possibly are worrying about, the dreaded future, because you don't know where it's going to go because it's all out of your control. The only thing you can control is taking the next step up this mountain and then all of it disappears. So until all of that goes, I don't think we'll have a problem, as long as we can come back to the present.
What do you think about the environmental impacts of AI?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Like the environmental impacts is, I'm yet to like dive into it heavily, but obviously AI costs money and the cost is reducing dramatically, but the cost to like power it is pretty insane. Like I think last year I think OpenAI reported millions of dollars a day going into just the cost to run their servers to keep things operating. And then that impacts on everything. So personally, I haven't dived into that world too much because I try to go what's directly in my control rather than, you know, the big problems that take an army of people to combat.
But don't you like knowing the impact of your activity, like the water consumption of using AI? Isn't that something that interests you? Like knowing what direct effect your use of AI is having on the environment and other things, which is what you think is so like. As long as we have the ability to come back into the real world, AI is not going to be a problem. But if the consumption and all of the things that it takes to actually run AI is going to affect the environment negatively, don't you think that should be something into consideration?
For sure, yeah, 100% it needs to be considered. I just don't know if it's by me in my role. Like you spend more time worrying about, reducing your impact and you can be conscious to a degree, but like it's also a big like global problem of usage. Like, every vote counts if you go into politics. But does your vote actually matter in the grand scheme of it if there's 10,000 other people doing the exact same thing or the opposite? Like, it's the same kind of thing of like, do you not use it just because it's gonna, use one extra, oil of 1 extra gallon of oil or something like that? But very hard to quantify. And from a human sort of perspective, it's too far out of our own reach to see the direct impact. So then that's why we don't change. So if you think about anything about like human design and like why we make decisions, it comes down to like, are we seeking pleasure or we are trying to avoid pain? It's either one of those two things. And if you're trying to avoid pain, you'll do everything you can to not use, try to avoid it. Like just think about procrastination, for example. You got an assignment, it's due in 2 weeks, and you procrastinate, and then you eventually get to a point where you're like, oh crap, it's due tomorrow. Now you've hit enough pain, you actually have to take action. It's the same kind of thing. Because it's too far out of reach, there's not enough pain there to change, so therefore change won't happen or action won't be taken. But if you're morally inclined to go, I get a lot of pleasure from understanding my impact and reducing my, impact, that's why we see like environmental pushes from different people, because they're getting pleasure out of campaigning, they're getting pleasure out of understanding their impact. So it's that old school pain and pleasure concept.
Mark,
Hey,
Big Shaz is back.
You ready to rock this one?
How'd you go? Are your minds blown?
They are actually.
Really?
That was very interesting.
blew the minds.
Really?
Job done, huh?
That's good. Mind blown? Layla, mind blown?
You're like, nah.
Sorta, kinda, your mind's blown?
More aware of the impact that their use of AI had. Maybe less inclined to use it.
Well, I'd be like, if you were more inclined, or if you knew more about your environmental impact from your usage, I would argue, is your usage causing you more pain or more pleasure? If it's saving you time, if it's speeding up your life, you've got more pleasure over pain, so therefore you're going to use it.
With like plastic bags, it's convenient to have a plastic bag, but when people found out, oh, it's killing the turtles and all of that. There's been movements to stop using plastic bags, and that has had substantial change in the world.
Yeah.
And the behaviour of plastics has influenced corporations like Coca-Cola, eliminated mostly the use of plastic bags. You don't get plastic bread tags anymore, you get cardboard bags.
Like I friggin' hate the paper straws, but I use them even though I have access to buying plastic straws. I use them because I know it's, even though it's a detriment to one aspect, it's not as big of a detriment as something else.
And because in the last few years AI has proliferated so quickly, people don't have that understanding of the impact that it has of image generating AI. It uses such an incredible amount of energy and water that it has a substantial impact on the environment.
It's like smoking cigarettes. Like people thought it was good at first, and then once they actually learnt the impact, a lot of people stopped doing it to the degree. Well, not a lot, but like, do you understand where it's like whatever?
Yeah.
It's an interesting moral dilemma though, isn't it?
And
Because
another thing is, if you know the consequences,
Environmental to me.
there's really a few choices. You can either stop it entirely, continue doing it, or you can find a way to use it without causing as much impact.
If consumers aren't changing their behaviour, then there's no incentive for the company to make the AI use less energy and use less water, like it costs stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
It has to come from companies though, right? Ultimately, it has to come from the companies.
Yeah, but if there's no pressure on the companies, they're not going to change.
True.
So, like, individual behaviour, if there's movements, if there's political pressure.
So yeah, every vote or change.
I don't even know. Where's the world leader in AI? Like what country?
Lucky butt.
Well, it's sort of a bit of a mixture. There's an arms race at the moment between America and China. You've got,
Who's winning?
well, America's got market share because we know it and it's West End, but China is coming pretty hard at the same idea. But yeah, the DeepSeek and the N8N, and there's all these other ones. But you know, Silicon Valley from America has always dominated tech, but you've got big companies that are coming from all over, but we don't necessarily get the market of that yet. So, but you're right, consumer sort of usage determines how much pressure is put on a company to therefore change the way they operate. And if you think about like DeepSeek, for example, that Chinese company, you know how everyone was like, oh yeah, let's jump onto DeepSeek, and because it's so much quicker and it's, you know, it's so powerful. And then when some people just lifted up the hood and figured out what was it, they'd basically, as far as I know, they'd grab the code bases from ChatGPT and then built it again. And then the privacy, there's an argument at the moment with Google and Microsoft about your data is safe with us, privacy and security. And they're like selling this facade of safety and security. Whereas, you know, I saw an article the other day about like people in Nigeria, they don't care about their data. They just want to get an outcome. So it's like, there's this huge like battle between these big tech companies of like what's ethically and morally right, how people's data is safe and not. And then there's the company pitch to try to get market share to get the most amount of profit for their like shareholders.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's such a generational thing. Like people my age have no idea if their data's safe or not, generally speaking. No
Yeah.
clue. And also, do they care? Not sure.
That's
Like,
it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So you live in this fog.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's to your point of like the education about usage matters, but until people start pushing that, no one cares.
But it will happen.
It will happen, yeah.
Because we'll get to that point. of
That's
like,
it.
Oh,
Yeah, what's the unseen consequences?
Yeah.
We're yet to see them.
I think there just needs to be more education over AI in general because, like, we were talking about like our different character archetype ideas, and one of them was a chatbot, basically, where it was you could add a personality and it would have comebacks and all this stuff. And Miss McCutcheon didn't understand any of it.
I mean, I knew what they were.
You knew what it was, but like you hadn't ever encountered it, and like you didn't.
I knew what it was, but more because my generation would
Yeah.
be like, why would you do that?
But that's what I'm saying. There needs to be more education over like the purpose of each thing, individual thing, and why it is a thing. And that's,
For you guys, as we've talked about, you've grown up with it in your back pocket. Do you know what I mean? And it's everywhere you go and you have a real understanding because it's part of your common usage. We grew up with Nokia phones in our hands.
you only got to
So this idea of having a chatbot that you can program to talk to you how you want to be spoken to and to stimulate you in the areas that you want to talk about, help you with study, whatever it is, would not be anything that would come into my brain because it's just not my sphere of knowledge. Do you know what I mean? Whereas for you guys, it's not. It's around you. It's everywhere.
But it's like teaching your nan to use the iPad. They don't get it at first. They don't.
Just compare me to your nan.
No, but I'm just. It's a generational
That's what
thing.
happened.
Like nans didn't grow up with an iPad. But if once they learn how to use it and they like learn how the
won't stop
benefits of it, they kind of become dependent on it.
Addicted to Candy Crush.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a really good point about that because the more you go into the AI education space, they talk less about usage and like teaching you guys, example, how to like, you know, open up ChatGPT and tell it to prompt and all that. They basically say, don't do that. Everyone will learn that from like TikTok or YouTube or whatever it is. There's so many tutorials. We need to talk about ethical and AI literacy, usage and morals and what's right, what's wrong, and encouraging to use your own critical thought and being, you know, critical when you see a response. Is this accurate? Is this hallucination? Like, what is the outcome? And that's the more the conversation. It's less about like how to use and how to prompt and all that kind of stuff. It's more about being discerning of the information that you're actually receiving.
Is that encouraged in like high spaces?
Encouraged to, what do you mean by that?
Like encouraged to use it because you can't get away from it, so you might as well use it.
Yeah, it's becoming more of a thing. Like I think I said before, like the CEO of NVIDIA is basically saying if you don't use AI, you're going to be replaced by someone who does use AI, and he's saying
Doesn't he have a vested interest in
he
telling
100% he does.
everyone to use AI?
But
That's what he's selling.
if you look at the big tech company and he's like, everyone's got a phone, everyone's got a computer, they're all integrated. You got Snapchat AI, you've got Google Gemini in your like Google Drive. You know, it's all there. So if you don't use it at a basic level, are you just not?
You're not relevant.
You're not relevant.
Useful. Yeah.
But is it all just a marketing point?
I get it. I'm not relevant. I'm not useful.
Could be, but I've seen the benefits of it. So
Or like going back to like just
Did you guys ask about art? Did you ask about music? Did you ask about visual art? Did you have that conversation?
isn't it all kind of the same thing as the generative AI?
So I don't know what you talked about, but one of the characters is an artist
okay,
and uses, the AI for them creates artworks from scratch, yeah? Whose character is it?
Mine.
Zach's.
Yep.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so in the scene, it's like kind of, I don't know how to explain it. A guy trying to sell this robot AI thing. We don't want it to be a robot, but either way, selling this AI, and I come in as like an artist, and Layla's like, just give it a prompt, and it can do anything from scratch, and it does it. And then I'm like, hang on, that's not exactly what I asked for. And Layla says, well, you'd be a bit more specific. So I do, and then I realized this did this in like 30 seconds when it would have taken me like hours upon hours to do it. And then I just kind of start getting mad and all that.
You get mad that it's not yours, or you get mad that it's happened?
Well,
or you get
mad
you
that
get
it's-
jealous.
It's kind of like a jealousy, kind of, it doesn't really give it any originality.
It's kind
Doesn't
of like
do
a heartbreak thing where it's like I would have had to work.
Yeah.
Do you lose confidence in your own ability?
I don't think it's that. I think it's more just getting angry that if this can be done, how much else has already been done.
And like, what's the point of even doing it anymore? What's the point of you being an artist?
so that whole, if something can do it quicker, why should I even bother?
Yeah.
Quicker and better. 'cause
Yeah,
it
what do you
has-
think
as
about that?
said, it
Like
has
around
the
that?
theory of-
Do you know anything about AI in the arts, like that
A little,
field?
a little. But one of the interesting things I've seen recently with, say, Instagram and YouTube editing, it's becoming less, retention editing where it's like flashy, like all these effects, and it's more just raw talking at a camera, and more of the nuance of people like stuffing up on their language. They're just trying to articulate their thoughts. That is becoming more and more like evident and more sort of watched content because it's exactly the same thing. AI creates this perfect thing. It's retention hacking. It's hitting the perfect hook, and we talked about it with like the political marketing of using a specific way of actually doing the marketing, and so you would see those like portrait reveals where like someone is like painting, and I've spent 20 hours painting this, and then they reveal it, and then there's a hook, and then it goes wild. Well, people want to see the stuff ups, and that's sort of like the human aspect of it that I've noticed just on a arts trend. And like one of the things.
So do you think that the perfection is too confronting for because humans are fallible? It's more like they're ultimately the kill switch comes in and they're like, you know what, that's too perfect, and I'm not that.
Yeah.
So then I need the
We want to be able to relate.
nuances. Yeah.
We want to be able to relate to it, and I think that's the interesting thing because like if you prompt enough in the image generators or that kind of stuff, they're now putting in certain sort of like watermarks, I'd call them, to just identify this is being created through the use of AI. If you look at when you upload a video in like TikTok or YouTube or whatever, it says, has this been created by AI? And you have to select, but you could lie or not, this kind of thing, just to indicate.
Yeah, but that's such a random
I've had a video sent to me by my grandmother of some AI rabbits, and she was like, "Oh, these cute." And I was like, I have to give her a lecture on how you can kind of tell, like, oh, see the fur here, it doesn't look quite right. Breathing.
But are people like interested in the lack of perfection, or is the reason that that kind of content of people just doing things is becoming more popularized is because people's attention spans is like shortening and people enjoy short form content, which is like the entire point of TikTok, Instagram Reels, and like even Vine. Like, isn't that
We don't need to bring up Vine. It's a sad time when it
I don't
left.
even know what Vine is.
original TikTok, but it was 5 seconds?
Can I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
So I know that you do a lot of hiking, a lot of running, a lot of outdoorsy stuff. You're always hiking mountains and going on big journeys and adventures. Is that how you balance your, because you have to use technology for your job, and you've already done that. So you talk to these guys about that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, you missed it.
You miss
Zen.
you just being irrelevant right now. You're being an old lady with an iPad.
No, I just think it's really interesting. I think your journey is really interesting, and I think the way you balance all that. Like I, on the weekends, have to just get in the garden purely because I'm on this all the time.
God, you are like my nan.
It's true.
Well, yeah, we talked about that, and that's where all of this becomes redundant, you know?
I was talking to these guys about an app that I saw. It's an app for couples who feel like their lives have been destroyed by technology.
Oh, yeah.
And so
That nap on technology. That's
I know, right? Isn't it beautiful? And so, like, if we were a couple and it would say, tell, what did you meet? How did you meet? Or what were you thinking of when you met each other? Or what hobbies is your partner into? And you both put an entry in wherever you are, and you get points based on how well you know the other person and how well you can connect with them. It's just completely bizarre, like the beautiful irony in that. I was like, this is fantastic. This app for couples. What were you like when we met? What was I wearing? You know, and if you get it right, you get points, and then you get that unlocks rewards and other things in the app, and extraordinary.
I like.
So fascinating to me.
I really like that. There's a phrase that if you look at relationship, there's a really big speaker, Tony Robbins. I talk about him all the time, but he says if you act the same way at the beginning of a relationship, at what you think is the end, there won't be an end because you are doing exactly what you talked about. Remembering and reminiscing on the past to invoke sort of positive feelings for the future.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so.
That's good advice. I just was reading about it, and I think it was on Triple J on Hack or something or other. And I was like, this is so ironic. It's so beautifully ironic. Like, I just love it. I love it. Anyway, it is all very interesting. I was going to say let's wrap it up because I was hoping we'd have time to do one scene, but maybe we don't. What time is it?
It's like nearly 2:50.
Oh, freaking what? How long did you do that for? 4 minutes.
2:46. Did you have a question, Mr. Filmman, that's just completely related to your business that you wanted to ask Mr. Littlejohns about AI? Because you use it all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Still
AI.
Did you know he has his own company?
Nice. What is it?
That's a media company.
Awesome.
Media production company, yeah.
Cool.
I don't know. I think, like, how do you feel about the copyright? Like, because marketing especially, it's very easy to, let's say, I don't know, go onto someone's website. I don't know, let's say their product is really, really good. Do you see that as a good thing, as like to just be like, okay, cool, copy that, put it in the AI? Because you can do it now, and just kind of almost steal it, I guess. But
What do you mean? What product can you take and put into AI? What are you talking about? Like, give me an example.
like, for example,
Stills
if you have your own products, right, and
Give me, like, what would that product be? Like,
Apple, imagine Apple, right?
Yeah.
Or you have your own off-brand Apple, right?
Yeah.
Or something else, right? And I don't know, Apple does probably one of the best jobs of marketing and all that, right? If you could just steal all their stuff, it is as easy as that now. And it's kind of taken away a lot of skill and dedication throughout many things.
Because you can feed it to AI and it spits out the
it
black and
actually,
gold version.
it'll spit you out even an image, like a product photography image for your product with real people, not real people, but made up people, stuff like that. Though saying that, I do think it's really good for task management and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, even just databasing
So is your,
how much work
is your question like on ethics or on
ethics,
process
yeah,
on
yeah.
ethics?
Yeah, we sort of covered it to a degree.
Yeah.
But if you look at like the ethical implications of, you know, usage, you've always been able to copy somebody else's website. You could literally, like when I was at uni like 10 years ago, you could right click and you could literally copy the source code and then literally paste it in your own editor. Yeah. But now it's just quicker. So it's like the intention matters. But yeah, for example, like I used to pay a video editor when I was doing like Instagrams like last year. Just a young guy from India. I don't pay him anymore. I just use AI through CapCut. I just click one button and it edits it for me. But
Wow.
you know, like, yeah, there's going to be use cases, but yeah, you know, if you work with it, you'll be on the right track. But
I heard like this saying, like, you got to work with AI for it not to top you or something.
I've got the big question. I've got the last question. Will it take over? Is Terminator real?
is Terminator real?
This is a real question, guys. Why are you
Yeah.
laughing at me?
Well, no, she
I asked the
gets the
question.
ability
I kind of asked
to.
a similar question.
Did you?
Of like,
Will it ever become self-actualized? Will there be
my question was like,
self-realization?
what's stopping it from overtaking everything and us becoming fat people from Wally?
Sure. Same. Snap. What did you answer?
Going hikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I talked about hiking and human connection. Like, all that
No, mine's a
disappears.
technology question.
Yeah,
Mine's like a Dr. Carl question.
yeah.
Not as people, how to, I mean, is there potential for it to do that?
Is there potential
can we
for it
turn
to
it
like
off?
stop?
And we can turn it off.
Yeah.
I would-
Is there potential for it to replicate itself every, yeah. For there to
Yeah.
be actualization and realization, yeah.
I would say that's AGI we talked about. It's equivalent of human intelligence. So possible. Yeah,
Wow.
possible.
See you, Beth.
Maybe in the next few years.
You don't get to walk out yet. You got 3 days. You guys need
I'm
a
on
job.
camera, all right? Now I'm gonna go.
You wanted to get on camera. Come back for 1 minute, please. Thank you very
All
much.
right, all good. Thanks everyone. Pleasure.